Ride up, come one, come all. What do you deserve? Only a quarter to play, and everyone is a winner. No one walks away without the answer to the question.
So is there anything we can do for her? I mean, she's a single mom, and she promises she'll have the money to us by next week.
No, she is routinely late on her payments. We cannot and will not do anything to grant her an extension, period.
Well, good morning. It is so great to see all of you here with us today. Those of you that are physically hanging out with us, those of you that are watching online maybe now or later, I think that you joined us for a great message today. I'm excited because I actually have notes. I have, after 8 years, you'd think I wouldn't have so much anxiety about getting up here, but often, as I did 2 nights ago, I had a dream that I forgot my notes. And so I grabbed my Bible and I realized, well, it's Easter, so I know what we're going to talk about. So I said, all right, well, I kind of was just ad-libbing a little bit and said, well, we're going to read out of Luke chapter 8 today, and it's Easter, and I'm glad you guys are here, and here's some cool stuff about Luke. And then I opened to Luke chapter 8, and I start reading, and it was not the story of the crucifixion. And so then I'm trying to fix it all. But anyway, I have dreams like that all the time. That is not what we're doing. We're continuing the series is what we're doing today, and we're actually going to be in Luke chapter 19. And through this series, we've been looking at different gospel stories about people that actually acted a certain way and deserved one thing, but by the grace of Jesus, he didn't give them what they deserved. And today we're going to look at something that I believe all of us have a need with at some point in our life. This feeling that we have sometimes in different situations of rejection. It could be direct rejection that somebody has rejected you, or it could be just that you're left out of something, or maybe you just feel like you got overlooked. But I don't know how many of you would say like me, I hate that feeling of rejection whenever that happens to me. And it doesn't just happen as an adult, it starts off in childhood. Whenever, you're lining up and they're picking sports teams and 2 people are picking and I get him, and then you're last and you kind of feel like you're such a loser because nobody picked you. Or it could be in the cafeteria. As you walk into the cafeteria, you got your tray of food and there's the table with the popular kids, and then there's the table with the almost popular kids, and then there's my table over in the corner all by myself. Or it could be that you got rejected by someone. When I was a kid, I can remember, I bet they don't even do this anymore, but when I was a kid, we used to go with people. Anybody guys that heard of that? You're going to go with them. And you'd ask somebody, hey, will you go with me? And you'd write this note that said, so will you go with me? Yes, no, circle 1. And I remember I wrote this note to Karen, and she circled yes, and she sent it back to me. And I was so excited because Karen and I are going together. And then a week later, she comes up to me and she says, we're not going together anymore. And we never went anywhere, so I don't really know what we were doing going together. I mean, we're in 3rd grade, we didn't talk, but I remember feeling devastated because, we weren't going together, even though we never went anywhere. I don't know. I just, felt like such a loser because I got dumped. And what's crazy is in the world today, we have technology and social media that allows us to feel rejected and quantifies it. Like you have more followers than I have, or your friends have more people that they're friends with, and you can kind of set yourself up to feel rejected by these situations, and you feel bad about it. Or you could be having a really great evening at home when you're hanging out and you're relaxing and you're enjoying yourself, and all of a sudden you open Instagram and you see all your friends are somewhere and you weren't invited. And so you're not there with them. And then you just kind of feel like, you feel so bad, like overlooked, and they didn't want you with them. This fear of missing out. I actually don't suffer from FOMO. I suffer from something called phobia. It's called fear of being invited. So just so you know, I'm good. Y'all don't have to invite me along. Anyway, I'm kidding. But so many ways, even texting, we can feel rejected with texting. There's certain rules of texting that you might have with different people. Some people you're like, okay, you're the kind of person that's going to text me back within like a day, but whenever you text them and it's 3 days later and they haven't texted you back, they sent you a very clear message of how they feel about you. Or some people are maybe even like hour text people, and so if they don't get back with you within that hour, and even though those aren't real rules, those can make you feel bad whenever they don't get back with you. Or even worse, if they just leave you on read and you feel rejected because you're like, I know you saw it, I know you read it, I know you opened it, and you never ever got back with me. And you grow into adulthood and it doesn't get much easier. You applied for that job, you went to the interview, you thought you knocked it out, and you never heard anything back from them, and you feel like a loser. Or your marriage, you thought it was going to be really good and you were working hard, and then you find out that they're talking to somebody that they shouldn't be talking to, and you kind of feel alone and lost and rejected. Or your own child doesn't want to spend time with you anymore. You used to be the world to them. Now they don't even care about you. Feel lonely. There's a few emotions that feel just as bad, man, as being left out, as feeling rejected inside. What we're going to do today is we're going to look at a guy in the Gospels that absolutely deserved to be rejected. What we'll see in this beautiful story is Jesus doesn't actually give him what he deserves, but he gives him something else. Like I said, we're going to be in Luke chapter 19. We're going to start in verse 1 today, and we're going to go all the way through this story and look how Luke records and tells us about this wonderful grace that Jesus has for this man. Verse 1 says this. It says, Jesus entered into Jericho, and he was passing through, and a man that was there by the name of Zacchaeus, he was a chief tax collector, and he was wealthy. I'll reiterate that part. He was a chief tax collector, and he was wealthy. So we can understand who Zacchaeus is and how people felt about Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus would have been absolutely hated in this community. He was probably one of the most hated people that was even lived in this area, and I'll explain why. First of all, to become a tax collector, what you have to do is you have to bribe another tax collector. So by just virtue of being a tax collector, you are already a corrupt person. And then secondly, what would happen is when they would collect taxes, they would go and he would collect taxes for what was owed to the Roman government, and anything that he collected above that went to himself. And that's how they made their living. So they might go to the house of a widow, and this widow actually owes $100, and he goes to the door and he says, hey, ma'am, you owe the Roman government $150. Now, they weren't doing forms and 1040s and all that at this time, so they had no idea how much they owed. They had no way to dispute it, and they just had to give them $150. And then the tax collector would give the Roman government $100, and then they would keep $50 for themselves. And that's what tax collectors did. So you can imagine how much people absolutely loved. I mean, we don't love the ones now, and they're not even corrupt. They're just, like the whole horrible idea of taxes in general. So to make it all worse, Zacchaeus was actually a Jewish man, and he was collecting taxes for the Roman government. So here's this criminal that's cheating people out of money, that's using the money that he cheats them out of to give some to the Roman government, who's actually oppressing the Jewish people at this time. And as a Jewish man, he's betraying his own kind. And to top it all off, it said he was the chief tax collector. So he was the boss. of the tax collectors. So not only did he get what he had stolen from other people, but he got a cut of what all the other tax collectors under him had stolen. So that made him very, very wealthy, but it also made him very, very despised. People, I'm sure, looked at him and thought, man, like this guy has everything, because he had a lot of money, and he probably had the huge house on the hill, and he had all the sports cars. I know cars didn't exist back then, but you know what I'm saying, like all the sports donkeys or whatever, like he had just beautiful, lavish things. He has it all going on because he's got all this money. The problem with this, though, is there's not enough money to make up for the lack of human interaction and intimacy with other people. There's not enough money to replace friendships and relationships. And I doubt that Zacchaeus had any, if many, friends at all. We don't know it from the text, but I bet that Zacchaeus was probably hurting, and probably, even though he may have a stern exterior front, he felt rejected. He felt left out. We just get one little comment on Instagram that's negative, and we're like, my life is ruined, and people hate me, and everybody hates me, and everybody hated Zacchaeus. He may have looked like he had it all going on, but inside, I bet he didn't feel the same way, and that can happen to a lot of us too. We can have this exterior of, man, I got it all going on, or we can have all the things, or you can look at somebody else and be like, man, their life is perfect, and I just wish I had that life, but inside, they could just be totally falling apart and crumbling. You can look at somebody and be like, man, they have such an awesome marriage, and I wish that was mine, and they even hold hands in public. They pretend like they like each other, and like hashtag goals, but like you don't know that all that's just fake, just to put on and show. I bet Zacchaeus wrestled with some of the same stuff because he had all the stuff, but he didn't probably have relationships with other people because everybody hated him. But he did also have the spiritual curiosity going on in this moment. We can read about this in verse 3. It says, Zacchaeus wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he couldn't see over the crowd. Zacchaeus was not tall. If you were a kid and you grew up, we used to sing this song in Sunday school. You might know this song, might have sang this song. It goes, Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. Okay, pause right there. Do not ever call a man wee. Like, that is the most degrading thing that you can say. But the point is that he was short, all right? Zacchaeus was short. Zacchaeus was so short. Zacchaeus was so short. There you go. I knew you guys would play along with me. He was so short, he lived in the trees with the Keebler elves. Zacchaeus was so short that he used a sock for a sleeping bag. Zacchaeus was so short that he could use a popsicle stick for a surfboard. All right, I'm just trying to have fun today. Have fun with me. But I'll get serious again. I don't want to continue to belittle Zacchaeus. That was my last one. Anyway, I'll try to get back on track. Actually, Zacchaeus was short, and it was obviously notably short that they made mention of it in here. And we don't know this either, but a lot of scholars believe that he was actually a little person. But he obviously wasn't tall at all, and he was significantly shorter than other people. And he's this tax collector, and he's despised, and he's rejected, and he's hurting. And when you're hurting, you kind of have a couple of choices. You can try to run towards people and look for their acceptance and their guidance, or you can do what Zacchaeus did, and you can run towards Jesus. And we see this in verse 4. It says, so he ran ahead, and he climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him. And since Jesus was coming that way, and I want you to notice what he did here, because this is really important. It says he ran and he climbed. He ran and he climbed. And the reason this is so important is a couple of reasons. So Zacchaeus was a Jewish man, as we said earlier, and no Jewish man would do these things. They would not run and they would not climb. First of all, they wouldn't climb because that would be very degrading, because that's something that you would have a slave do, is climb up in a tree. So any Jewish man that had any sense of himself never, ever, ever would have climbed a tree. And secondly, no Jewish man would have run. The Jewish men wore these long robes, and if they would have run, the robes could have flowed up and, shown their legs or their ankles, and that was just absolutely taboo and a no-no. It was undignified. It was undignified to run in general. So there is no way that a Jewish man that had any sense of himself at all would have done either of those things, is run. As a matter of fact, when Jesus tells a story in Luke 16 about the prodigal son, you remember what happened? The son, he asked for his inheritance early, and then he went and he squandered it all away, and then he comes back begging his dad. He's with the pigs, and he comes back begging his dad. And his dad, who in this story is representative of God the Father, comes running for the son. And the point of that is when he's telling Jewish people this, they're like, oh my, God run to me? And he's like, yeah, that's how much God loves you, because running would have been a very degrading thing. And so, Zacchaeus is here, and he runs to see Jesus, and he climbs to see Jesus, because he had to see for himself who this guy Jesus is that everybody's talking about. Like, I wonder, I actually think it's very, very probable that Zacchaeus, who is this tax collector, had heard some story about another tax collector named Matthew. And this Jesus came across Matthew, who everybody rejected as well, and he was hated by everybody because he was a tax collector. And Jesus didn't only accept him, but he asked Matthew to come be one of his followers. Zacchaeus probably heard about this and had this spiritual curiosity and thought for himself, man, I got to go see Jesus. And I don't care what it takes. And I'm going to run, and I'm going to climb so I can see him. Verse 5, when Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. This is what's so interesting to me in here, is that Jesus calls him by name. He already knows his name, the Good Shepherd. He knows his sheep, and he calls them by name. In fact, Zacchaeus probably didn't hear his name called very often. He probably heard names called at him very often, but it was very likely that people weren't calling him by name. Zacchaeus actually means the righteous one. And I'm sure those widows that he went to visit just said, oh, hey, righteous one, let me give you my money. But Jesus calls him what he's not. He calls him Zacchaeus. He calls him righteous one. He says, hey, righteous one, man, I'm going to come to your house today. Now, if you put yourself in this crowd, and you think about the people that were there and saw this happening in the moment, you're out there and you want to see this Jesus guy too, and you've heard all kinds of stuff about him. He's been raising dead people, and he's been healing people, and he's got this massive wisdom, and he might even be this Savior that we've been hearing about that's supposed to come to this earth for us. And he comes across, and he wants to talk to and hang out with the most hated guy in town. He goes to this guy that's hated and rejected, and he says, hey, man, can I come to your house and maybe have some dinner, maybe hang out a little bit? And what you're thinking in this moment is you're like, no, Jesus, you got it all wrong. Let me help you out here. This guy is pathetic. Everybody hates him. He's a thief. He's a cheat. He's a stealer. He's a liar. I'm righteous. I'm good. I go to church. I serve at church. Not only do I serve in church, I serve in the kids area in church, so that gives me bonus points. I give money. I'm always at prayer every week. I'm righteous, and this guy, this tax collector, isn't even allowed to step foot in the church. And Jesus doesn't pipe up and say, oh, wait, you got to understand, man, I'm on a mission trip here. I'm trying to save this guy. It's all going to work out. I get what you're saying. Like you are better than him. He doesn't say, hey, we just need to pray for him. He just ignores the crowd. He focuses on Zacchaeus. He goes straight for the wildest guy out there. Because that is who he came for. Jesus didn't come for the righteous. He came for the sinners. He didn't come for the healthy. He came for the sick. And this blesses me so much that he went for the most unhealthy, most unrighteous person in the whole community. And he said, hey, man, come down. I'm going to go to your house. We're going to hang out. Verse 6 says, so he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. And all the people saw this and began to mutter, he has gone to be with the guest of a sinner. Mutter, mutter, mutter. Mutter, 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 mutter. All the people talking. But the thing is, they're right. They're absolutely right. This is shocking in this moment because Zacchaeus absolutely deserved rejection. He was a horrible person. He was kind of like a mafia boss if we think of like more current day thoughts of it. He's abusing people. He's hated. He's committing treason against his Jewish people. He's a horrible, horrible human. The worst of the worst. But Jesus didn't give him what he deserved. Just like that, when we turn to Jesus, he doesn't give us what we deserve. D.L. Moody, which was an evangelist in the late 1800s, when he's talking about Zacchaeus, he said this. He said, Jesus saved Zacchaeus in the distance from the limb to the ground. From the time it took to get from that limb down to the ground, Jesus changed his entire life. How long would that take to get from the limb to the ground? I don't know, maybe 3 seconds, maybe 7 if you're short, 1 if you fell, I don't know. It could be different. We'll just kind of split it and say, like 5 seconds, 4 seconds, whatever. In 4 seconds, Jesus completely transformed Zacchaeus' life. And I want you to understand that. In a matter of seconds, Jesus can transform you totally and completely by the grace of him. No matter how bad you are, no matter what you've done in your past, no matter what things you've done wrong, no matter what you're holding on to, no matter how far you think you are from God, in seconds, he can change everything in your life. And we see immediate evidence here in Zacchaeus. In the form of this transformation that he has, Jesus says, hey, Zacchaeus, come down. Party's at your house. And Zacchaeus comes down, and from the time he gets from the limb to the ground, he's transformed. And he's like, all right, before the party starts, man, I got an announcement for everybody. Verse 8, it says, but Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. What is going on here? Half of my possessions. This is the guy that loves money. This is the guy that steals money from people. This is the guy that has cheated people for years and years and years, and he worships money, and he's going to give half of his possessions to the Lord. And he says, and if I've cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay them back 4 times the amount. From the distance to the limb to the ground, distance to the limb to the ground, he starts talking crazy. He starts being something he wasn't. He's generous all of a sudden. He's making things right in his life. And why did he do this? He didn't do this to get the approval of Jesus. He did this because he got the approval of Jesus. We don't do good things to win the approval of Jesus, but we do good things because he has approved of us. When you recognize that you don't deserve it, but yet he still gives you extravagant love, the only reasonable response to this extravagant love is extravagant sacrifice. I give you back my life. I give you back my everything. What he does, what Zacchaeus does, is so much more than the law required. See, the law required wealthy Jewish people to set back 20% for the poor. He says here, no, 20% is nothing. I am going to give them half of everything I have. The Jewish law said if you stole from somebody, you owe them back what you stole plus 20% interest. Zacchaeus says, I'm going to see your 20%, and I'm going to raise you 380%, 4 times, 400%. If I cheated anybody, if I stole from anybody, I will give them 4 times what I cheated them out of. Why did he do this? Because he wasn't motivated by the law. He was motivated by love. And that is the extravagant response to God's extravagant love. And that's what happens when you're truly transformed by Jesus. In the distance, from the limb to the ground. In the distance, from a prayer for help, an answer can just be seconds away. When you're transformed by Jesus, there is evidence. And suddenly, man, you start doing stuff that doesn't make sense. You start forgiving people that don't deserve to be forgiven. You start loving people that other people find it really hard to love. You start caring for the outcasts and the unfortunate. You start using your resources to help people that are in need. You start serving, looking for ways and opportunities to serve other people more so than yourself. And all of a sudden you look around and it's not your life anymore, but your life truly belongs to God. And you're doing things that don't make sense because extravagant love demands an extravagant response. Zacchaeus didn't do all this to gain the approval of Jesus. He did this because Jesus approved him. So you can work your tail off and you can try your best to please everybody out there, but it's not going to happen. I promise you. No matter what you do, somebody's going to think it's stupid or dumb or whatever. But you can. You can please God. And when you recognize that God approves of you even when you don't deserve it, suddenly you're not living for the approval of people anymore. You're living for the approval of God. And that's when everything changes. Jesus looks at Zacchaeus in verse 9, and he says, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost." Man, don't ever miss that. Jesus didn't come for the found. He came for the lost. He didn't come for the righteous. He came for the sinners. He didn't come for the healthy. He came for those that were sick. And when we recognize that, our only reasonable response to him is to give him our whole lives, because he accepted us even when we didn't deserve it. Father, I come to you this morning, and I'm so grateful for the love and grace that you have, to accept me in my broken state, to accept me as somebody who has consistently let you down, not been perfect. But even more importantly, Lord, I love that you've changed me. I love that you've given me care and compassion by looking and modeling your example of Jesus. Lord, I just pray that we can be more like him each day. I pray that we can read this and other stories about his life on this earth. And look at how he looked at a man that everybody else hated and was laser focused on him and changed his life in seconds. And you can do that with Zacchaeus, and you can do that with anybody. Lord, I just pray that we take advantage of those opportunities and tell people that we come in contact with about the saving and loving grace that you have. That in a mere matter of seconds, you can change everything in someone's life. Pray this in your name.